Good morning. This is Don Marie Elder from SIPPIO. Thank you for joining us today, or thank you if you're listening to the recording after the fact. I wanted to invite you and welcome you to our 5.5 part series on marketing. So, what we're attempting to do here through our Thrive series is really help guide and direct your efforts in bringing voice to your customers and attracting new customers to this exciting opportunity for voice enabling both Microsoft Teams and Zoom as part of their collaboration efforts and platforms. So we'll have 5 sessions running every Thursday at 11 a.m. and these will be recorded and also transcribed. And we'll also be pushing out some additional information to accompany these different sessions to really kind of round out the information that we're providing. The sessions are designed to focus on your entire customer lifespan. So that means from before they know you and you know them, all the way through years from now when they, have become a lifetime customer of yours. The topics that we'll be going through are attract, that's today's topic, and they'll all be in this order. Interact, transact, activate, and attach. So, what we're attempting to do here is really ensure that you can tee up the ball, hit it well, follow through, see where it lands in the fairway or maybe on the green, and then allow you to par or birdie that hole. We want to make this well rounded so that you can bring that customer on the journey with you through the entire life cycle. Each week, I'll be bringing in an expert from my team, and these are people that Scipio specifically went out and recruited from the industry based on the experiences, knowledge, and success that they've had in the past in these respective areas. Some of these faces may be very new to you because we have done quite a bit of hiring based on growth the last couple of months. And today I'd like to invite Aaron Evans to the stage with me. He will be going over the first pillar of the Thrive series, which is attract. So, Aaron, why don't you come on up here and then I'll give you an introduction. So, Aaron is
Hi, yeah, it's good to be here.
yeah, thank you. So Aaron is our director of marketing, and he's actually kind of the brains behind this series that we are bringing to you today. And Aaron began his career studying public relations, digital, and social marketing at university. And what's interesting is he's at the career level where he was actually able to learn about all this technology in classes, not like me who got email into like my second job is when it was invented. So Aaron's career has been built working for a number of large marketing agencies in the UK and also SaaS companies, which this means that he really understands the collaboration marketplace with Microsoft and Zoom, as well as the importance of a channel. And at Scipio, you know that we're all about the channel and making our partners and carriers successful. So then he branched out from there and started his own marketing firm, where his prior company actually became his first customer. So that must mean that he does pretty good work. And we've been really happy with Aaron coming into our business and helping us grow and kind of refine our approach for marketing. So he's going to bring some great perspective today on the newer generations that are entering the workforce and how we need to engage and message a little bit differently. And the other thing that I love about Aaron is he's from outside of the US. So he's bringing an international flair and vibe, which I think is really important based on how the world is kind of getting flattened with the economy and all the digital assets and programs that we have to be virtual. So, with that, Aaron, I'm going to let you take it away and go through Attract and what that means to our partners and carriers to engage with their customers.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that introduction, first of all. So, yeah, like you said, we're here today to learn how to build and extend customer relationships through marketing. But before we dive in, I want to take a moment and reflect on the evolving expectations of the current and future workforce. So research from Frost and Sullivan published earlier this year has shed a light on the generational makeup of our workforce and how this is going to affect technology preferences, but most importantly, purchasing decisions over the next 5 to 10 years. As you can see, by 2030, Gen Z and millennials will account for 32.5 and 30%, so over 60% of the future workforce, and they will be leading the labor market. In just 3 years, baby boomers, so those people who've been sort of the dominant decision makers over the last decade, will account for as little as 5.2% of the market as they continue to retire. And lastly, Gen X, I think that's yours, Marie. So they're the people who'll be making the key decisions in most organizations in a few years' time. So what that means is we're about to head into a period of major transformation. Whereas baby boomers, they were considered to be hostile to technology and more reliant on their traditional phone systems, for example. Gen X are they're called digital immigrants, and millennials are considered digital natives, as are every generation that's followed them. So for the first time, people who grew up with cell phones, internet access, social media, Skype, all of that, they'll be the ones in the driving seat. And while people still need to be able to make and receive telephone calls, their attachment to the device that enables that won't be as predictable as it's been up to today. But obviously, we all know this. That's why we're in the business of enabling voice in Microsoft Teams and Zoom. So while we've identified the needs for the technology, I don't think as many of us have grasped how the purchasing process is going to change quite rapidly too. And that's because these emerging generations, the key influencers and decision makers over the next 10 years, are going to be the first who will have grown up with instant access to everything from movies, flight tickets, taxis to food. The idea of waiting for anything is essentially completely foreign to them. And these people are going, well, they're not going to have the time or, frankly, the patience to go through an RFQ or a tender process. They know exactly what they want and they want it now. And, you know, looking at these brands here, you might be thinking, sure, that's all consumer stuff. But if you look on the bottom, we've got here Shopify, Stripe, and Office 365. You could start a business with these three tools in less than an hour. So how can you become the go-to solution for enabling voice and be front of mind when these decisions about voice are being made? Because the chances are a company or an organization will have already reached a decision before they do any outreach.
Yeah, we see that.
Yeah. So the answer to all this is marketing. And we're going to start looking with web presence. So over the last few weeks, we've spent time auditing the websites of our partners, getting an idea of best practices and understanding how everyone is positioning the solution. We've got three takeaways, and I'll dive right in. The first one is, more often than not, it's not clear that you offer voice for Microsoft Teams and Zoom. If there is a product page, it's often buried quite deep with no obvious call to action. Unlike traditional PBX, voice is now a feature that gets turned on in a product that your customers already have. So if it's not obvious that they can enable that feature with you, they're just going to look elsewhere. Secondly, it's sometimes hard to get a sense of who you are or who you stand for on your websites. I know that Steve is going to be doing a deep dive on value propositions next week, but it's important to get a sense that there are friendly faces behind the brand. People buy from people, so it's not so much about how corporate or professional you appear. And you can't forget that the captive audience that you may have had in your city or state doesn't really exist anymore. Businesses buy globally, which is also an opportunity for you. And thirdly, something we found is that there aren't enough ways to contact you on your websites. So like I said earlier, people really want instant gratification. Now, personally, I hate contact forms. If it's the only method to contact the company, I'll usually abandon the page and just look elsewhere. So
Yeah,
it's
I have to really want whatever that is. If I have a passing interest, I just click
mhm,
away. Mhm.
yeah, absolutely. So it's really key to make sure that phone numbers, email addresses, various contact methods are obvious on the page. as well as a variety of calls to action. And the most important thing that we've learned recently at SIPPIO is the importance of live chat. So from our experience, the conversion rate on a live chat widget is usually around 60% higher than any other method. It's really easy to set up. It costs you no more sort of man hours than having someone there to answer the phone. There's really no excuse not to have that level of engagement on your website. So if you haven't got it already set up, do it now. So those are the digital experience. And next, we're going to look at the language that is being used as well. This is across website and marketing collateral. So the second thing that we want to encourage you to do is to simplify your language. A lot of people tend to sort of bamboozle customers with too much technical language or buzzwords. And instead, you should be focusing on clear. What's that?
Acronyms, like acronyms.
Yeah, loads of acronyms. Yeah, absolutely. So you should be focusing on clear, human, engaging language that invites people in instead of shutting them out. Something I always tell my clients is to benchmark yourself not against your competitors, but the global industry leaders, because ultimately we're all competing for the same eyeballs. So take a look at how Microsoft and Zoom, for example, describe their services. Other great examples I've seen online off the top of my head are Slack, DigitalOcean, HubSpot. They all have really friendly, inviting calls to action and headlines that really bring you in. Everything in the market is telling your customers how easy and simple technology can and should be. So don't create these unnecessary barriers for yourself with overly sterile language that lacks any personality. And next, you need to build your influence. So that's a key thing. Now, you don't need me to tell you about the power of personal branding. I'm sure many of you have contacts on LinkedIn and on Twitter who are shouting from the rooftop about their businesses. And if you aren't doing that already, then you should be doing that too. Whatever your position is in the business, you should be living and breathing your brand every day, because people are way more likely to remember you than they ever will their business brand. And if you don't know where to begin, you can take inspiration from people who you see online who are doing well, people whose content inspires and motivates you. Just have a look at that and think, how can I make this work for me? Remember that the more visible you are as an expert in all things voice, the more likely are people, the more likely they're going to come to you when they're ready to make that transition to voice. So those are just 3 really quick, actionable things that you can do today to really improve your presence and your pipeline. And we recently launched our marketing hub, which is packed with more ideas, strategies, content that you can use today to start building your brand and start making a name for yourself in the world of voice in Teams and Zoom. You can get started just by following this address. And yeah, there's so much there to dive in and explore. So I encourage you to do that as soon as possible.
Great. Yeah, the marketing in the box. I actually had a meeting with a partner earlier this morning, and they were so excited because they were trying to figure out how to get started. So if you go and you look at those assets, there's everything from tweets to LinkedIn posts that you can replicate, white papers that you could use for a call to action. Our customer PowerPoint has being revamped, and it'll be coming out a little bit later this month. So stay tuned for that. We've really have taken the look and feel and talk track and dumbed it down. And it's kind of funny. I saw the new Microsoft track that they put out around phone, and we kind of overlapped a lot, and I didn't even know. It's not like we, sat down with them and said, how can we build this together? But there's a lot of overlapping. So that means that they're also taking that tactic of moving away from kind of the technical pieces of like direct routing or operator connect, and really just talking about the value of a phone system. So a couple questions for you. When you look at the website, you said that it wasn't always clear that they offer voice services.
Mm-hmm.
So are you suggesting to pull that to the front page, or are there other things that they can do to get those eyeballs to the right place, especially if they offer multiple different types of solutions in their business.
Yeah, absolutely. If your primary business is voice, then 100% Teams and Zoom should be upfront. You should almost be leading with that on your website because that's where the direction of travel is heading. And then the second thing to remember is when it comes to things like voice in Teams and Zoom, nobody is looking for a company and then exploring the services that you have. If you imagine the way that you search yourself, you search for the service that you're looking for and then a company to satisfy that need. So the next key thing you need to focus on is landing pages and SEO. That will be the key thing to make sure that you're capturing those leads. Um, Teams and Zoom, it's such a new, fresh market. The opportunity is really there to own the search results. If you generate really high quality content that's packed with keywords, yeah, there's so many opportunities there for you to be able to capture that market and make sure you stand out as an expert just by increasing the quantity and the quality of content that you have on both services.
Okay. So can you talk to us about the search engine optimization and how to
Mhm.
get that right? Because like you said, people aren't necessarily searching for switches and boxes and whatever they called all that telephony stuff in
Yeah,
the
absolutely. So way back when, you could log into Google and see precise keywords of what people were searching for, but you can't really do that anymore. They've got a lot more pay to play. So one thing I always recommend to people is to set up a sponsored ad with a minimal budget, but it will give you so much more insight into what people are searching for, the terms that they're using, when they're searching, if they're searching from the office or their mobile device. It'll just give you that extra level of insight that you can really hone in on and target your customers. You know, if you're selling nationally or globally or whatever, you can adapt campaigns as you need to, but just by setting a small campaign with $100, for example, it will just give you that insight that you're looking for, so you can tailor the content on your website just for SEO purposes.
Okay. And do we have a list that we could provide to everybody and put in
Yeah,
the marketing
absolutely.
inbox?
So in the marketing hub, I believe we already have a list of keywords.
Okay.
But the great thing about this partner hub as well is it's a constantly evolving beast. So we'll always make sure it's up to date with the latest advice and keywords that you can utilize to get going. But I think for just if you just roll first of all with Teams Phone or voice in Teams, just those really simple terms. Don't get caught up with technical terms like operator connect or direct routing, for example. These are things that we typically use within the industry, and it's not necessarily what people who run businesses will be
Right.
searching for.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, that sounds like a really easy thing to start with is the keywords, scrubbing your websites to make sure that you're utilizing that terminology so you're showing up when your customers are searching.
Absolutely.
So here's the takeaways that I had from today, Aaron. So I really appreciate the time and effort that you put into this and sharing with our partners and carriers to make them more successful. But definitely the website, we're talking about that. Some of the comments on the generations, the immigrants and the native are really
Mhm.
interesting. And when I first looked at the year that you published there, 2030, I thought, oh, 2030, that's so far away. And then I
Mhm.
subtracted and it's 6.5 years away. So it's really not
Yeah.
that far out there. And a lot of the boomers, are kind of retiring out. Good for them. Maybe they're playing golf every day, like my husband. I hope to be there soon myself. So focusing on the up and comers is really important because I know having an 18-year-old daughter that they do talk and think differently than we do. I
Mhm.
also like the perspective that you had on the personal profiles and the brand
Yeah.
because that is so important. People buy from people, and they buy from people that they trust, and they may find you or your company a long time before they ever talk with you. I had somebody that told me that they stalked me for like 4 months before we finally had a conversation. And while a little creepy, I also kind of understand why they would do that because they want to build confidence. And when that person did come to us, He was right exactly what you stated in one of your statistics. He had his decision made. So I
Mhm.
didn't have to do a lot of hard selling. It was more of a feel good, soft sell conversation because he had enough information that he had gathered from our websites and webinars and LinkedIn and all of that to know that that was the direction he wanted to go. And then the last piece that I took away, we talked about a bit already, is the search engine. That's just a quick and easy thing to do and make sure you've got
Mhm.
keywords there. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to immediately overhaul your entire website because I know that that's sometimes difficult and time consuming and can have costs associated with it, but you could tweak on the words. So Aaron, thank you
Absolutely.
for today. I'll introduce the session for next week will be Interact with Steve Forkham. And that session is really the second step in the customer journey. So once they're engaging with you because you have amazing content on your website and your social media outlets that you utilize, what's the story and what's the approach that you should be taking and how strong is your value proposition? There's all types of competition in this marketplace right now, and everybody has to do direct routing pretty much the same. Everybody has to do operator connect pretty much the same. So you need to have differentiators. We help you with the differentiator with the SIPPIO application because everything's automated and at your fingertips, but you'll still need to differentiate yourself with your customers of why they should pick you over another partner or carrier or MSP. So join us next week again at 11 Eastern time, and we'll go into a deep dive around the Interact pillar. Thanks for your time and have a great day. It's getting warm
Thank
here,
you.
so hopefully it is where you are as well.